Please have a seat. Yeah. We're not going to talk about your amazing trip to Africa, unless you want to, and the countries you're going to. But for those who do not know about I'm going to come closer. There we go.
Okay, good.
The SECO Startup Fund.
Yes.
Talk to us about that. What is that? Who's that for?
Okay, it's a lending facility of the Swiss government, actually financed through the budget of the Development Corporation. And we can give loans up to 500,000 Swiss francs to Swiss domiciled entrepreneurs or Swiss domiciled companies that want to do a startup in an emerging market. Okay. So we have a number of countries we can do. Yeah. Amongst the ones, also the ones you mentioned, yes. Because I will actually go there next month for visiting some of the projects after a big break due to Corona. We couldn't really travel.
Yeah. I want to remind you that while I am certainly the one that is asking the questions, you're welcome to as well. So again, if you just want to use Slido and you can pop some questions, I'll see them in. This is one of the largest sustainability conferences happening here. Tell us specifically what the Startup Fund is doing in sustainability. Okay. What are the kind of entrepreneurs you work with?
Yeah. So basically, the Startup Fund is quite an old instrument. So we have been around for more than 20 years. And the business models actually in renewable space or in the sustainability space are relatively young, right? I remember when I worked for the government, renewable energy was not something you could actually make commercially viable. So, and we don't have a focus on sustainable business, but we have financed around 20 of them, I counted them, and we basically do the same thing as for normal businesses, right? We offer this loan for the early phase. That means we can enter actually as a financier into a company with the loan up to the 6 years of after operational start. So that would actually cover interprets, what he said is a scale-up phase, right? Which he said is going up to 5. I must say many of them haven't made it until then, but yeah. So that's what we do. Risk-wise.
I was going to say, less risky, more risky?
Actually, on average, surprisingly, actually, we looked at it last year and we were actually surprised that of the 20 we have done, around 13 or so almost 2/3, we consider as being successful, meaning that the business is still alive, they can pay off the loan, and also in parallel the same have an impact. So basically these are businesses with a social purpose or a sustainable purpose, so it's of course important they have to be financially viable, commercially viable, but also have the impact. So not many more risks. Not more risky, maybe some specific risks compared to the normal business, like a furniture business or so.
So you said there are some specific risks.
My observation is they have some specific risks, especially when we also talk about the emerging markets. So something what we observed is actually when you talk to social entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs with a sustainable purpose, there is a tendency sometimes to really focus very strongly on the impact, on the non-financial impact, right? On the social cause, on how can I solve a specific problem, how can I help poor people, or how can I help the planet, and not really enough focus on actually how do I make money. So where is the business opportunity? That's, I think, is a specific thing we observe. Then there are certain sectors which are difficult, like the water sector, where you have, on the one hand, you have a political sensibility also. Can you charge people for water? Where there is regulation also, that has been mentioned earlier, but also where you have a lot of grant money coming in. And grant money in the private sector is a two-sided sword. It can help you in an early phase, absolutely, but it can also create, I call it unfair competition, right? So if your competitor basically has access to grant money you do not have, basically we have to be very actually homeopathically apply grant funding, because otherwise you're going to crowd out actually good businesses. So I think that's one of the. Then technology, especially when we look at emerging markets, sometimes the entrepreneurs, especially from Switzerland, we come with a Rolls-Royce very often of technology, right, which is expensive. too expensive that it then turns out in the local markets, and also difficult when it comes to maintenance, etc. Plus, very often you underestimate actually that the customers, for them, it might mean really using your product might mean a shift. For example, when you think about sterilization in a hospital, right? They have to basically adapt the whole protocols, so they don't easily do that. Or maybe we are looking at solar models now, solar panels now for our house. So we're looking at a very innovative product from Switzerland. But as a customer, you think about, okay, they have not been tested for 20, 30 years. So that is very often underestimated and a specific problem in the sustainability sector. And the result is basically it takes more time to really go to the market and sell. So you need more money. So very often you realize you have a gap there.
So I was going to say, I don't think your job is easy because first you're investing in startups, and that's a very difficult beast, the funnel that you have to go through, the number of ideas you have to go through. Then you're investing, at least for this conference, the sustainability sector, which is a smaller one. Like you said, a lot of them have ambition, vision, but maybe not the bottom line because this is a loan capacity, so you do need to make sure it's viable, that you get your loan back. And then it is technologies and ideas in emerging markets. So this cannot be a very large group of people. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe the deal flow? Like how many ideas are you seeing in a year? How many are you able to invest in?
Yeah, that we have of the 160 odd we have 20, as I said. So it's a small part.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I'm here also.
Find some more.
Yeah, it's not so easy. Actually, the pipeline is not so easy because it's a loan instrument.
Yeah.
And it's actually counterintuitive. It's not really made, loans are, in my view, not really made for the early phase and not the ideal thing. But the way it was set up, from Switzerland, it's the best thing to do actually to go in with a loan, because if we go in with equity, we have to basically manage that from the countries themselves. Because with equity, you really have to be close to the company. So yeah, so I think that's one of the reasons. So we also are very careful if we have, especially young entrepreneurs coming to us, and we feel that they should rather first try with the friends and the fools and the equity maybe or grant facilities before they basically come to us and in-depth themselves.
Okay. We have a couple questions from the audience, if you want to take those. What are some of the most exciting trends that you've seen in the startup scene in emerging markets?
I would say what I see, some of the the technologies in saving water, which I find exciting because I think what we're gonna see in the future is actually that these technologies that are basically developed for these countries, we will see them coming back. We have a number of countries that will face water shortage. So it's basically not always going north to south, but that basically we're gonna see more innovations basically developed for us here. Absolutely. Also, yeah, which I like.
Would you say that you can do more with less money in emerging markets?
I'm not sure that holds. One thing which we have to be realized in emerging markets is, for example, the shortage of qualified staff. So when you have a successful company, we hear that again and again, is basically that they realize that good staff costs a lot. For example, we have been talking about Kenya, right? I'm going to visit a project in Kenya, a company, and it's extremely hard for them, for second-level management, to find people they can afford in an early phase. So I wouldn't say that holds.
Okay.
Yeah.
You actually just commented on this, but maybe they're looking for an exact example of it. But I said we often try to transfer tech from the Western world to developing and emerging markets. Have you examples of tech transfer the other way, from emerging markets to developed ones?
Yeah, I can. I have an example actually. It's a company from this region. Actually, they produce sterilization equipment, which uses much less of water.
Okay.
And basically, they wanted to do that. They developed it basically for Africa, for emerging markets. And then they had some issues with certification, etc.
Yeah.
Because it was really for the human, for hospitals, etc. So they realized that here in Switzerland and in Germany and Europe, they can sell that products to veterinarians, the doctors for the animals.
Yes.
So they basically found a totally new market.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got 4 minutes. I'm going to give you a tough challenge. I'd like 5 tips for entrepreneurs who are wanting to build a sustainable startup in the emerging market in 4 minutes.
Okay.
5 tips, 4 minutes.
I try.
Okay.
So one I have already mentioned. I think it's very important that when you want to do something, when you want to pursue a social goal with a business, you have to make sure that you really have the business opportunity. And know how you want to make money. Then I think we have talked about the team. Obviously, team is the key, is the most important we look at when we invest with somebody. We have talked a lot about the founders and the second level management team. But I think what is very important also is that you complement your team with an advisory board. We see that very rarely actually with startups. They don't think about this, but the good advisory boards that are well connected can really not only help them go through the difficult times, but also connect them with funders and kind of be their ambassadors. I think one important thing we also see is that very often people have big dreams and then they need a lot of money, and it's very difficult to find those millions or 100,000s in one go, especially when you don't have a name or a track. So we encourage them to basically stage it and really focus for each stage of the company or of the development on the success, creating a success that makes them more credible in the fundraising. Also, they also they protect themselves also from burning money. Which they will never get back anyway. So I think staging the business is very important. You can still dream big. A good business plan is important, but also we often tell them, don't perfectionize. Just go ahead, let's go and try.
How many startups actually stick with the business plan at the end of the day?
1 in thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can really say from the many businesses I told you, it's a handful.
Right.
Otherwise, never.
Okay. You actually did that faster than 4 minutes. So I'm going to give the chance for questions that are coming in, which is great. I'm glad you're sparking some thoughts. So let me rephrase this question. Emerging markets, are they more open to innovation?
It depends on the sector. I think, when we talk about everything is based on the mobile telephony, for example. This is also actually a great innovation that came from Africa, right? The M-Pesa, etc., the payment systems. I think they were really advanced before we actually realized that.
True.
So I think there, yes. When we look at the farming sector, for example, farmers, I find, are conservative thinkers everywhere in the world. There is no difference.
All right.
Yeah.
So farming. And last question. Key challenges for scaling solutions in emerging markets?
You mean now technology or?
What are the key challenges?
Okay. Well, there are many. The distribution is, of course, one. The infrastructure situation is a totally different one in many of these countries. You don't have a conducive environment, I would say. That's something which is, you can be happy actually if the government doesn't bother you sometimes. Just keeps off. I think that is important. And people. Yeah. That is really something you see not only in Africa, but also Southeast Europe, for example. It's a big, big problem that you have this very strong pull. When you have people that are really qualified, they come to you. They go to the US, they come to Europe, and they're really drawn, right? And they're not there in these countries. I think that's the biggest problem actually at the moment. I see.